January 23rd. Reset responsibility. Responsibility is discipline in action. It is not the acknowledgement of fault. It is the acceptance of control. It is the recognition that regardless of circumstances, your response determines your outcome. Responsibility is ownership of what happens next, regardless of what happened before. Most people confuse responsibility with blame. They avoid responsibility because they interpret it as admission of failure. They deflect because accepting responsibility feels like accepting fault. But responsibility is not about fault. It is about power. When you accept responsibility, you claim agency. You declare that you have influence over the outcome. You position yourself as capable of affecting the result through your actions. When you deflect responsibility, you surrender agency. Deflection feels protective. It feels like it shields you from judgment. But deflection is surrender. It is the abdication of control. It is the statement that outcomes are determined by external factors, and you are simply reacting to them. This removes your ability to change anything. If outcomes are not your responsibility, they are not within your control. If they are not within your control, you cannot improve them. Responsibility is the refusal to wait. It is the decision to act as though outcomes depend on you, regardless of whether circumstances are favorable. It is the acknowledgement that while you cannot control everything, you control how you respond. No deflection. When something goes wrong, the reflex is to identify external causes, to list the factors outside your control that contributed to the failure, to explain why the outcome was inevitable given the circumstances. This is deflection. But deflection does not solve problems. It preserves them. When you deflect responsibility, you remove your ability to address the issue. Because if the problem is external, the solution must be external too. You must wait for circumstances to change. Accepting responsibility does not mean ignoring external factors. It means focusing on what you control despite external factors. It means asking what you could have done differently instead of listing reasons why the outcome was unavoidable. This shifts focus from circumstances to actions, from conditions to decisions, from what happened to you to what you did in response. And that shift is where power exists. No excuses. Excuses are explanations designed to justify outcomes without accepting responsibility for them. They are the reasons you offer for why things did not work, while simultaneously implying that those reasons absolve you of ownership. But excuses do not change outcomes. They just delay the acceptance that you are responsible for creating different ones. Every minute spent crafting an excuse is a minute not spent adjusting behavior. Excuses feel productive because they require thought, because they involve constructing an argument, but they are not productive. They are avoidance disguised as analysis. The strongest response to failure is not explanation. It is adjustment, not the listing of reasons why it did not work. The identification of what will be done differently next time. Adjust and continue. This is the only response that matters, not the justification of what went wrong, the correction of it, not the explanation of why circumstances were unfavorable, the adaptation to them. Adjustment is the application of responsibility. It is taking ownership of the outcome by taking action to change it. It is refusing to let circumstances dictate results by changing how you operate within those circumstances. Most people spend more energy explaining failure than correcting it. They invest more time defending their actions than improving them. They focus on why things did not work instead of what needs to change for them to work. This is backwards. Explanation does not create progress. Action does. Understanding why something failed is only valuable if it informs what you do differently. Responsibility requires accepting that outcomes reflect your decisions. Not entirely, not in every case, but enough that changing your decisions changes your outcomes. Enough that you have influence. Enough that action matters. When you accept this, excuses become irrelevant. Because excuses do not change what you do next. They only justify what you did before. And what you did before is not changeable. What you do next is. Responsibility is forward-focused. It does not dwell on what went wrong. It identifies what comes next. It does not ask who is at fault. It asks what can be controlled. This is uncomfortable, because accepting responsibility means accepting that you could have done better, that the outcome was influenced by your choices. That improvement requires changing yourself, not waiting for circumstances to change. But discomfort is the price of agency. If you want control over your outcomes, you must accept responsibility for them. You cannot have one without the other. Most people want outcomes without responsibility. They want success without accepting that failure reflects their decisions. They want credit when things work, while deflecting blame when they do not. Reset your relationship with responsibility. Stop deflecting. Stop making excuses. Own what happens. Adjust what does not work. Continue regardless of difficulty. Responsibility is not burden. It is power. Day 23, built in silence.